This is Sawyer Robertson, and you're listening to the Bearcast on SicEm365.com.
Welcome into the Bearcast on SicEm365.com, presented by WellMed Medical Management and Barefoot Campus Outfitter. Head on over to Barefoot Campus Outfitter in Waco or go to the website and use SicEm365 as your code to save 20% off your purchase. Today, I'm here with Colt Barber, and we are going to go through our Big 12 picks for the week. But first, like we always do, let's go through our picks from last week in the Big 12 slate. Colt, you had a 2-2 week, so let's go through the picks. You had Kansas at UCF over 54.5. That one was only at 47 points. So a miss there. Also missed on Iowa State at Cincinnati. Took Iowa State plus 1.5. Cincinnati won that one 38-30. The hits were TCU minus 13.5 against Colorado. A very lucky hit there. They won 35-21, but they got a touchdown in the final, 19 seconds of that game to push it to 14.
Yeah, TCU had the late cover on the touchdown pass. I think it was on the fourth down play.
It was.
So, yeah, that was a game they had to put away. It went opposite. I thought TCU was going to get out to a lead and win it. That game was close throughout. They separated at the end. But yeah, that was a very lucky. I was actually confident about that pick, and then it went completely haywire, and I covered in the back end.
Absolutely. And then you also hit on Kansas State plus 6.5 against Baylor. Baylor wins the game 35-34, but Kansas State covers. So 2-2 on the week, 13-10 on the season. So still plus 3 there for Colt. As for myself, Kansas at UCF, I took KU minus 4.5. They won by 7, so a hit there. Iowa State at Cincinnati over 54.5. They scored 68 points, so a hit there. West Virginia at BYU, man, a complete miss here. The under 47.5 is what I took, and they ended up scoring 62 points in that game. So yeah, big miss there. Texas Tech at Houston, I took Tech minus 10.5. They won by 24 points, so a hit there. And then missed on the Baylor Kansas State under 61.5. They ended up scoring 69 points combined. So 3-2 on the week, 11-13 on the year. So -2. I got to make up some ground this week. But Colt, let's turn our attention to this week in the Big 12. Where do you want to start first?
Yeah, I want to go back to your Kansas pick real quick. You got lucky on that one too. UCF had 2 roughly red zone trips in the fourth quarter, turned it over on downs twice that would have tied it up late in that fourth quarter. That was a game I was watching for the sole purpose of your pick, or really paying attention to it, and they couldn't get it in there late for UCF. That game was actually closer than I anticipated.
Yeah, but their backup quarterback was not good, and he really struggled. They had Fancher in there, and he was struggling, and also it was rainy. It was just it was kind of an ugly game for a lot of it.
Is Fancher? Do you know if Jackson's hurt again? Was that the issue?
He got hit again, and he did the same thing he did against K-State?
Kansas State. Yeah. He went out in that game.
Where he grabbed his arm. It looked like his off arm, and he got hit again. And so Fancher came in and was just not good. Not good at all.
Their quarterback plays struggled a little bit. Kansas only putting up 27 points was a little bit surprising to me in that game. But yeah, looking at this week, we were talking about this before we hopped on the air, but it was a couple weeks ago. There was some picks that were really I just couldn't decide what to pick. And then this week I'm looking at all the lines. I'm like, these actually, there's a handful of these, more than a handful that I was deciding between. And so obviously we each have 4 for this week. And the one that I'm starting with is Arizona State at Utah. And I think these are 2 of the top 4 roughly Big 12 teams right now, and for different reasons. But I think both of their defenses are really good right now. In the reason I like the 48.5, the under 48.5 right now, is because Arizona State's going to play this shell defense in the back end, be really physical with their safeties. Utah doesn't want to throw the football downfield at all. They just don't, and it's for obvious reasons. Dampier's just not good throwing the football. He's the worst 20-plus yard passer in the Big 12, and it's not even close right now. Completion rate, efficiency, everything. He just doesn't do it. And Arizona State's just going to keep everything in front of them already, and this allows them to play closer to the line of scrimmage. And then on the flip side, Utah's defense is good. And so I'm looking at this 48.5 thinking They're playing at Utah. I think Arizona State's defense will travel for this game, and then Utah's defense at home should be pretty good. I could see Arizona State winning this game because I think they're more balanced in general. But if I'm picking this, I'm picking the under 48.5 because this is going to be, to me, a 20-17 maybe type game, 24-20 type game, and that's under the 48.5. I just think both of these defenses will play well, and the style of offense that they're going to play on both sides, running the football, is going to slow it down. Unless we just get some unexpected explosive plays, I think this one stays under 48.5.
Yeah, that would be my bet as well. If I were to pick this game, would be the under 48.5. My only concern is there's some blowout potential here. For whatever reason, I'm getting a vibe. I mean, 5.5 points, like what is dictating that? Like, what have we seen from Utah this year that's telling you that they should be a 5.5 point favorite against Arizona State? But in general, these two quarterbacks I think are good, but I also think that they're two quarterbacks that can be mistake prone. And so if you start turning the ball over all over the place, that could be an issue. But yeah, I think that's a pretty solid pick for that one. These two defenses are very, very good. And I think these offenses still have more to prove in my eyes. Like, to see
I just think
really
Arizona, the reason I would feel comfortable picking Arizona State in this game, I think their offense is further along. Like, that's just like, I mean, what they have at quarterback specifically, his ability to go. I'm not saying Dan Pierre can't make those plays. I just think Kansas State's, if you're picking one or the two, you're picking Levitt. Running back, absolutely picking Raleek Brown. Overall wide receivers, absolutely picking Jordan Tyson. Tight ends, probably a toss-up, but I really like Arizona State tight ends as well. Offensive line goes to Utah. I think I could see them winning this game. The 5.5 seems huge, and I would never touch it either way. But the 48.5 just seems too obvious. Like, I just think that's my. What was the Tech in Utah? 44 points.
34-10. Yeah.
So 44 points. I don't think that Arizona State's offense is going to put up those types of numbers against Utah. Interestingly enough, they're both played at Utah. So this is a really telling game for Utah in general, though. They faced Tech, who you assume is a really good team. They faced three other teams that are not good. And so we don't really know what that in-between is. And this is a week that we find out what the in-between is for Utah.
Real quick, Sawyer Robertson has something to remind you about.
Want the latest information about your favorite team? Try out Sigum 365 premium content the next 3 months for just $5 by clicking the link below.
And now, back to the Bearcast. Agreed. All right, let's go to my first pick. And since you took an under, let's go with an over here, and an over that I feel pretty good about actually coming into the week. So Kansas travels to Texas Tech. Tech is a 14.5 point favorite. The over-under is 59.5. That's a lot of points, first of all, for Tech. 14.5. If they're going to win this game by more than that, then I feel pretty good about the over, because I think they're going to score a lot of points. Kansas would score in garbage time, in my eyes, in that type of game. I think in general, Tech's going to win this game. I think Tech's more of a complete team. But I do wonder about their secondary a little bit. They really have not been pushed in their secondary at all. Like, the teams they've played have wanted to run the football and try to establish a ground game and then just slow down Tech in that way. That is not at all what Kansas is doing. Kansas has actually not ran the ball to the level that they usually have been able to. And that's going to mean that Jalen Daniels is going to throw the football. And that's what it has meant for them all season long so far. I think Kansas is going to score some points here. I think they're probably going to score probably mid-20s, maybe high 20s. Who knows? Maybe they even crawl up into the 30s. But I think Tech's going to win this game. So if you're saying, let's just say Kansas is scoring 27, 24 points, I still think Tech can win this game and score a bunch. Score in the high 30s. I think this game sets up really well to be something along the lines of, 38-24, 38-27, 41-30, like something along those lines. And all of those would cover this 59.5. I feel good about Kansas's offense, and I feel even better about how bad Kansas's defense is. And so that sets this up pretty good.
Yeah, this is actually one I had written down of, like, I like that line. It's just determining which ones I like best. But I like the over here as well. My only concern, and the reason I didn't go, is because Kansas only put up 27 points on the road at UCF last week. I think we saw Kansas State do more than that against UCF. But we did see Kansas put up stupid passing numbers against Cincinnati, which Cincinnati is a whole nother story.
And Missouri.
and Missouri. So
I think the weather played a huge factor in that UCF game because
that's
they
fair,
had perfect weather against Missouri and roasted a good defense in that game. And then against Cincinnati, who can't stop the run, but guess what they do? They allow you to throw the football all over the field. And so that's kind of that's my bet here is that Kansas is going to have success.
Oh, I think you hit it. Is if Tech scores points, Kansas can answer to a decent amount, and Tech hasn't been challenged in that way this year. I like the bet. I like the other ones better.
Yeah.
If this game was at Kansas, like this is one of those areas where you look at Tech's schedule and you feel like it just sets up so well for them. Like if this game is on the road at Kansas, you're probably feeling a little bit different about this game as a Tech fan going on the road to face Kansas. But it's just like playing at Houston. Well, that was a Tech home game for a lot of reasons. Yeah. So it's just the way that their schedule's setting up. If this game was in Lawrence, I would feel differently about it in terms of overall upset potential. But in this case, like I think Kansas is going to score enough to cover or go over for the total of this game.
Yeah, I think the biggest scare here would be a Tech blowout in which KU doesn't do anything, or Tech just making a statement that their defense is really good. Because if they shut down Kansas, it kind of speaks to that based on how Kansas played this year.
Compared to what they faced this entirety of this season, this would be the offense that you say, oh yeah, this makes, if you hold them to less than say 17, you're thinking, okay, Tech's offense is probably pretty legit. Now 27, UCF just did that last week, and I know the weather situation, but this is an opportunity for Tech to make that statement. Like our defense is legit. They haven't had that opportunity yet this year.
For sure. All right, where are we going to next, Colt?
Yeah, so saying with another Arizona team for me, I really, really, really like picking up a straight out upset. It's Arizona plus 1.5 versus BYU. This is a home game. Now, I think these are both teams that haven't been challenged for the most part this year. And I think Arizona has been challenged more than BYU. I guess is probably the easiest way to put it. And you start looking at like analytics numbers, the BYU teams, they face on average the number 71 offenses in the country, and on defense, the 66 best defenses on average in terms of F+. Now, that's excluding some of the worst teams they play. Like I took Stanford out of those rankings for BYU because they're not very good. Same reasons I would take UCLA out, even though they did get the win, but take UCLA out for the Utah game. I think both of these defenses are pretty good. But I like Arizona at home getting 1.5 points. BYU, I don't know if their offense is going to travel. They have a freshman quarterback. I just don't trust BYU enough right now. And I like Arizona at home. We just saw them beat Kansas State at home. And I can't make the argument that Kansas State's not better than BYU at this juncture. Like I don't know that because we haven't seen them play each other. And so I like Arizona at home in this game.
Man, this was a tough one for me. Because I get everything that you're saying, but I just don't know who either of these teams are. Like Arizona lost by 25 points at home to Iowa State, who does not look all that great. Like they look okay. They're having injuries and stuff, but they got blown out in that game. And so I come into this kind of thinking that I don't know who either of these teams are. I probably trust BYU a little bit more because they run the ball better than Arizona. Both these defenses are really good in the secondary. So this could be a little bit of a funky game, some turnovers, some bad quarterback play, who's going to be more physical. But I think in general, that is a tough one for me. It's a total toss up because I really don't think we know enough about these two teams. The one data point we do have is BYU kind of narrowly beating Colorado and Arizona getting blown out by Iowa State. Those are the two that matter the most to me. So
I personally don't see right now high in value for either one of these teams. I think Arizona. I think that's the ultimate. I mean, I think that's where you're going. It's like, what do we know about these teams? Like, well, they're kind of right now in my mind, middle of the pack Big 12 teams, and they're trying to make that stand up. But you mentioned the Arizona loss. I kind of forgot about that one to Iowa State. Iowa State throttled them, and it kind of made me come off of them earlier this year. But yeah, I think Arizona at home versus a team that has not been tested. I think that's the reason I'm going with this game for Arizona to cover the plus 1.5.
Yeah, and they showed some cracks against West Virginia this past week at home. So we'll see kind of how that all plays out. All right, with my next pick, Colt, I just am probably going to continue to pepper this team because I just do not believe in them at all. And maybe it'll be wrong, but UCF is traveling to Cincinnati. and Cincinnati is a 10.5 point favorite. The over-under is 53.5. So UCF runs the ball well. That's kind of the only thing they do well. The only thing Cincinnati's defense does well is they stop the run.
Right.
So we're just gonna expect that Cam Fancher or whoever the quarterback is, an injured Taven Jackson, is just gonna go into Cincinnati and score probably the necessary 21 points to keep this within 10.5. I just don't see that happening. I don't even know if they're going to get to 20, to be honest, in this game. And for Cincinnati's purposes, their offense is playing with a lot of swagger right now. They are playing very confident football. I know Iowa State's dealing with injuries, but they put up 38 points and they didn't even score really in the last few minutes of that game. And so,
which was a concern for me too, for their offense. Not that they were up big, obviously, but
right.
Iowa State played well against them late.
They did. They kind of took their foot off the gas pedal a little bit, but I think against UCF in this one, you got a UCF team that it feels like they're reeling a little bit, like 2 straight losses here. Now they're going into Cincinnati, a place that just got a huge win. And so maybe you think, oh, Cincinnati's going to lay an egg now, but I don't see that happening. I think their offense is too good. And I think the matchup is too advantageous. So I'm taking Cincinnati minus the 10.5 here. I would be shocked if they didn't win this game by 2 scores, really. I think they'll win by at least 14, 13, somewhere in that range.
Yeah. So you have the UCF who played at Kansas State and versus Kansas last week, have lost 34-20, 27-20, and back-to-back games. Now travel to Cincinnati. So, yeah, I mean, we've talked a lot about Cincinnati. We talked about them coming into the season with Brennan Sorsby and what he's able to do. I like their offensive a lot. If Kansas State puts up 34, I think Cincinnati can at least match that. And so it comes down to UCF's offense. I would almost be, if I'm picking anything here, I'm probably picking the over, but I like what you're going with. This is kind of like my pick last week with TCU. Like, I felt like this is just a spot that makes a lot of sense. Now, I got it on the back end. I didn't get it up front like I thought, but I like Cincinnati enough. I just don't know, like, are you going to win a 2-possession Big 12 game this year? I don't know. Like, they haven't done it yet. They've won it by 8. Against Kansas, and then Iowa State, and they won it by 3 over Kansas. So can you get that next step and win a double-digit game? I mean, probably, but I just don't know if I trust them yet.
I think if you go back and watch that game, that Iowa State-Cincinnati game, it really was Rocco Becht making a bunch of plays that allowed them to even move the football at all. And so once again, it's like, Cam Fancher, Taven Jackson really going to take over the game and give them that type of opportunity? I'm having trouble seeing it, especially on the road at Cincinnati. I think it's kind of a statement game for the Cincinnati program to go out and beat Iowa State and then show up the next week and kind of take care of business. And I fully expect them to do that.
Yeah. I'm anxious to see Iowa State moving forward too. Like with all the things that they've dealt with, and I'm about to talk about this one right now. So, but yeah, I'm anxious to see Iowa State moving forward.
Absolutely. So let's go into that one, Colt. We both have a pick for this one. So it's Iowa State at Colorado. Iowa State is a 2.5 point favorite. The over under is 52.5. What direction are you going with this one?
Yeah. So I have Iowa State covering the 2.5, getting the points at 2, or Iowa State -2.5 at Colorado. So I think Iowa State will cover that. And it's a little tempting to not pick them in this game because what we've seen, obviously this past week, Colorado's quarterback play is not good. I like Caden Salter to an extent, but we saw it last week against TCU. It's just like, dude, you had this TCU dead to rights. It's 14-0 late first half, and then you throw 2 interceptions that allowed them to get right back into the game. Like, they were going in to score a touchdown against TCU to make it 21-14 after they had just been up 14-0, and you threw an interception and allowed them to get back in it. So it's 14-14 at half. He just kind of fell apart. He can make plays, and I think that's where, for me, Colorado's offense facing a defense that's going to probably do similar things in terms of confusing Salter and playing sound defense. I just don't, this isn't Brennan Sorsby. Like, I don't see that Colorado doing that. I think Iowa State goes and gets the win. And, I mean, at this point, it's such a small line. I just think Iowa State wins outright, so by a field goal or more. I mean, it could come down to a 2-point game where something funky happens, but I think Iowa State wins this game. Even if it's on a late field goal, I think they win.
I think you're probably on the right side. Like, I think Iowa State's probably going to win this game. It's probably going to be a close one. It's probably going to be, kind of a hard fought one. But for me, it's less about who wins this game. And for me, I'm going with the over 52.5 here. And my main reasons for this is you mentioned we're going to find out who Iowa State is going forward.
I don't think their defense is good.
No, I think they've fallen off a cliff. I mean, the guys that they've lost are key pieces for them. And so now you're looking around and it's like, Colorado might not score a ton of points, but I think they're going to score enough to push this into that over area. Like I really do. I think this is going to be one of those games where Iowa State's probably going to score, somewhere in the neighborhood of 30 points. I think Colorado's going to probably score in the high 20s. And so I think it's going to be kind of played in that way. So whether that's, something like 31-27 or 34-30, something along those lines is how I think this game is going to play out. I think Colorado's defense is pretty good, but I think their offense puts them in enough bad situations for Iowa State to score. And then Iowa State's defense, I don't think is very good. So I think Colorado will probably hit on a couple big plays and move the ball enough to score some points. And that over-under is relatively low. So 52.5, I'm going to take the over there in Iowa State at Colorado.
I could see both of these hitting. I mean, personally, I don't think Colorado's going. I mean, they're 0-3 in the Big 12 now. I mean, and it's kind of a funky 0-3. I mean, they lost not a weird game to Houston, but they started the third string quarterback, so they lose by 16. Lose against BYU in a game that, I mean, they could have won that game. What was it? Were they up in that game? Do I have that right? Where Colorado was up in that game as well, and then they're up against TCU. So now you play an Iowa State team that maybe you feel like if you can get up in that game, but they've been playing with that like being in there decently competitive in these last two games. I think Iowa State bounces back. This game could very well go over. I just like Iowa State to win it outright.
Yeah, and I mean, the BYU game would have been under this, but the TCU game and the Houston game both would have been over this number. So that's kind of also, again, what I'm banking on, them scoring enough to hit the over there. All right, Colt. So our next game and our last game is actually another one that we both have bets on here, and I believe we might actually have the same bet here. TCU travels to Manhattan to take on Kansas State. TCU is a 1.5-point favorite. The over-under is 55.5. Where do you want to go here?
Yeah, I'm going the over 55.5, and this is TCU's offense has kind of just been like, I don't know, grinding it out's not the way to put it, but the last two games has been just kind of, I think it's because they can't run the football right now at all, and they faced, I mean, decent run defenses. I mean, Arizona State's legit. Colorado's okay. They're kind of middle of the pack run defense. But they just have not been able to run the football. And this was a game where they had Barnes back, and he rushed 16 times for 48 yards against Colorado. I think this is a area where TCU just abandons the run. They're playing at Kansas State. I think they abandon it. I think Josh Hoover throws for a lot of yards. Kansas State's susceptible. The game's not it's not a grinded out game like you would typically anticipate. I think there's a lot of possessions because there's a lot of incomplete passes, a lot of clock stops with TCU's passing offense. And I think on the same hand, I think I actually like Kansas State to throw the ball. Dylan Edwards is supposed to be out of this game or potentially out of this game again after playing against Baylor. Now he's out. And so I'm anxious to see what Kansas State does offensively. But I think this is a high possession game. I think there's a lot of possessions, maybe some 3 and outs in here that are just slowing the game down in terms of clock moving. And so 55.5, like I could see this being a 30-27 or better game. And TCU's defense, I think, is fine. I think they're good. I don't above average Big 12 defense right now. They want to create havoc plays. But they're also susceptible to an offense like this. It's going to be patient with Avery Johnson. And truly, I think we saw for the first time, and maybe not the first time, that's probably not the best way to say it, but like Kansas State and Avery Johnson running the football right now. He's running it the last 2 games. He's done it more than he did the first 4 games. And if they're going to lean into that, that's their way for their offense to actually continue and stay on the field and score points. So I'm anxious to see TCU in this matchup because obviously Baylor plays them the next week. And obviously this will be the third mutual opponent for Baylor and TCU. And it's another data point for that game.
So I actually think a little bit of the opposite here. I think TCU is going to run the ball a little bit better in this game. Kansas State is just terrible at stopping the run. And like you mentioned, TCU's played some pretty good run defense recently, the teams that they've played against. So I think they'll run it okay, and that should help them continue to move the football. I think Josh Hoover, Should score some points here. Kansas State doesn't get after the quarterback nearly enough in my eyes to influence TCU very much in the pass game either. So I think TCU is going to score a lot of points here. My question is, how many points is K-State going to score? And are they really the team that played against Baylor? Are they really going to be able to move the football on most teams? Are they going to move it enough in this game? And my answer to that is yes. I think they're going to move it enough. I think you mentioned the Avery Johnson piece of this. I think they finally got their pass game going a little bit more as far as trying to find their tight ends. I think that's been big for them. Jace Brown is obviously an explosive playmaker as well. I think both teams are probably going to turn it over a couple times, which should put their offenses in pretty good situations. I feel pretty good about this going over the 55.5. I think TCU wins this game. I was tempted to take TCU minus 1.5, but I do think you could make a case here that TCU plays really bad again. They turn it over a lot. K-State finally has their kind of big game, their game where it kind of all comes together. I think you can make the case for that. But either way, I think TCU will score enough even in that outcome for this to go over the 55.5.
Yeah, talking about Avery Johnson. So in the first 4 games of the season, he had 25 carries, rushes. In the last 2 games against UCF and Baylor, he has 22. And that's for over 100, almost 150 yards, where he was at less than 75 in their first 4. That's it. Like, that's not unintentional. Like, that has to be in the game plan for them, because I think the Matt Wells discussion early in the season, like, what is he doing with his offense? What is he doing with his offense? Is he trying to turn him into a pocket passer? Well, that's truly what, if you watch them, that's what it felt like. The last 2 weeks, if you go and watch the UCF game and you saw it a little bit, his willingness to run and them going 5 wide and running essentially a QB draw against Baylor, that was not there early in the season. And he had a game, I guess it was North Dakota, where he ran for 43 yards. And I believe that was the reason they won that game, is because he started running at the end of the game. It reminded me a lot in a different way of Sawyer Robertson just not running the football early in the season. So I'm anxious to see what he does. I don't know if TCU, what their game plan defensively in this game when accounting the quarterback run, because they want to be so aggressive. But if you get aggressive against Avery Johnson and you're trying to blitz and stunt him a lot, like, it could be a long day. And they're, with Dylan Edwards in or out, if he's hurt, like, whatever's going on. But, like, if he plays, I'm for sure betting the over on this game, or would be, because he's so explosive. And TCU's one missed assignment away, or one missed tackle away from being really aggressive and getting burned. We saw that against Colorado in a lot of plays that they had. They just miss assignment and they break it. And I'm anxious to see this matchup. It's really, really telling for Baylor specifically, but also for Kansas State.
It really is. It really is. So I think that one will hit the over, like I mentioned. So we both have 4 picks for this week, a pretty loaded Big 12 slate. It'll be fun to watch kind of how these games unfold. Should be a good one. Baylor has a bye week this week, so no picks here for Baylor. They'll be back next week against TCU, which we, of course, will pick here on the Bearcast. And also be sure to check out Colt and I on Monday. We will have some, bye week takeaways and things like that on Monday's episode before previewing Baylor versus TCU. But thanks everyone for listening. This has been the Bearcast on Sikkim365.com.
Join Sikkim 365 Premium on a $1 for 1 month trial to read our experts' notes and insights. Know about high school commits, off-season transfers, coaching staff changes, and so much more before the rest. Also, download the Sikkim 365 app on your iPhone today to get instant notifications of breaking news, read up on the latest inside info, easily interact with other Baylor fans on our forums, and get alerts for anything published by your favorite staff members.